Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Joanna Butler, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Private Ashley Chivers. As part of the memorial's commemorations to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War, this evening we will share the story of the Battle of Hongorai River, which took place 80 years ago on Bougainville during May 1945. During the course of this fighting, the Australians lost 38 men killed and 159 wounded, while the Japanese lost at least 275 men killed. We pay our respects to the men and women who are commemorated here on the Roll of Honour and the survivors who returned home. This evening, we are honoured to acknowledge Mr. Nick Booth, Chief Executive Officer of Canadian veterans charity True Patriot Love Foundation, accompanied by Mr. Khalil Fegan, Repatriation Commissioner, and Mr. Mark Brewer, Deputy President of the Repatriation Commission. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Wanaora Public School visiting from Bully, New South Wales. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones, buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Richard Steele. Richard Steele was born in the Sydney suburb of Campsie on the 24th of February 1918, the son of Richard Thomas and Ellen Mary Steele. He grew up to work as a truck driver, living with his family in the North Sydney suburb of Dee Why. With the coming of the Second World War, Steele enlisted in the militia at Manly on the 19th of August 1940 at the age of 22. Marching into camp at Ingleburn, he was attached to the 7th Field Regiment and began training with the Royal Australian Artillery. The regiment was eventually tasked with garrison duties in Western Australia. In July 1942, Steele joined his comrades on the West Coast until September 1943, when he returned to Sydney. The majority of personnel of the 7th Field Regiment had volunteered for overseas service as part of the Australian Imperial Force, so the regiment was disbanded in October 1943. Private Steele, who was still a member of the militia, was posted to a training battalion. Now back in his hometown of Sydney, Steele married his sweetheart, Annie, on the 31st of December 1943. In the following year, Steele was charged for increasingly long periods of being absent without leave. In April, he was absent for a week and was fined £3. On the 10th of June, he was again posted as absent without leave, and a warrant for his arrest was issued. The warrant was withdrawn when Private Steele reappeared for duty almost a month later, on the 3rd of July. His punishment on this occasion was to forfeit 23 days' pay. After being hospitalised with appendicitis in August, in early December he was transferred to the 58th 59th Battalion. An amalgamated battalion raised in 1942 as part of the militia, the 58th 59th formed part of the 15th Brigade, assigned to the 3rd Division. Although a militia unit subject to restrictions on deployment, because more than 65% of its personnel volunteered for overseas service, the 58th 59th Battalion was one of the 32 militia infantry battalions to receive Australian Imperial Force status, allowing it to be deployed outside Australian territory. The battalion had deployed to New Guinea, taking part in the fighting around Salamoea and Lai, and then in the Finisterre Range campaign. Private Steele joined his new unit in early 1945, embarking from Townsville on the 22nd of February for the journey to Bougainville with his comrades in the 15th Brigade. Japanese forces had landed on Bougainville in early 1942 and captured it from a small Australian garrison. The Japanese developed air bases for operations in the northern Solomon Islands and to attack Allied communication. The Japanese bases also helped protect Rabaul, the major Japanese garrison and naval base in the area. Now, in the late stages of the war, elements of the 15th Brigade, including Private Steele's 58th 59th Battalion, were charged with clearing out the southern sector of Bougainville. As the 15th Brigade took over forward positions, the Australians headed towards the Hongorai River. The 24th Battalion moved along the Buin Road, with the 58th 59th protecting its flank and rear, and carried out an attack around Dawes Creek that day. Determined Japanese counterattacks were successfully turned back. Supported by 3 squadrons of Corsairs from the Royal New Zealand Air Force, the Australians covered almost a third of the distance to the Hongorai in just 2 days. Japanese forces became increasingly desperate to destroy Australian tanks, eventually sacrificing an artillery piece in order to lure the tanks into a trap where they could be destroyed by mines. On the night of the 5th of May, Japanese artillery opened up with a heavy barrage, and the following morning a large counter-attack took place. But the Australians repulsed the attack, spelling the end of the Japanese attempt to defend the Hongorai. The main crossing of the Hongorai River was planned for the 20th of May. The 58th 59th Battalion carried out a wide flanking move along a track carved out of the west bank of the Hongorai by bulldozer. By the 22nd of May, most of the Australian objectives had been secured and mopping up operations began. During the course of the fighting around the Hongorai, the Australians lost 38 men killed and 159 wounded, while the Japanese lost at least 275 men killed. Among the dead was Private Richard Steele. Evacuated to a field ambulance suffering from gunshot wounds to the arm, elbow, hip and waist on the 22nd of May 1945, his condition proved mortal. He died of wounds later that day. He was 27 years old. Initially buried near where he fell, his remains were later reinterred in Port Moresby War Cemetery, where they lie today under the inscription chosen by his grieving family, "Ever remembered." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Richard Steele, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere, or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.